Welcome back. It's time now for Media Watch, for which I'm joined by James Creedon, plugged into his laptop as ever.
Absolutely. Evening, Chris.
Hello to you, James. We're going to be starting off with those riots in London. Interesting to look at the French reaction, obviously, a few years ago. Images of burning cars in the Parisian suburbs. Perhaps images like these less shocking to the French because they're used to them. This hasn't been seen for quite some time in the UK. How have the French media been reacting?
Well, what's interesting is Rukia Vanaf, which is a left-leaning website here, they've been looking at how the news media in France back in 2005, as the suburbs of Paris were experiencing their fair share of riots, they were looking to Tottenham back in 2005 as an example of successful social integration because Tottenham experienced very extreme riots back in 1985. And indeed, if we have a look online here, my computer seems to have shut down. Here we go. Websites such as Storyful, they're going back to the Tottenham riots in 1985. They've been showing photos of what happened back then when something like 50 police officers were injured in those very severe riots. Rue 89, when Tottenham was a model for the French suburbs. So basically, they were looking to Tottenham as a place where they had successfully kind of come to terms with those riots in 1985. And 20 years on, in 2005, things were somewhat improved. And I think we have some pictures, if we could play them now as well, of the evening news back on the 16th of November in 2005. Here in France, where they were talking about how 39 different communities live side by side in Tottenham, how yes, there's high unemployment, but French students have gone over there to study the successful model of social integration. So 6 years on, I suppose that all seems very out of date.
Yeah, 6 years, obviously a lot has changed. James, have the British media been analysing this, though? A lot of the usual panic, obviously.
Right, exactly. They're trying to figure out what is going on. And if we look, first of all, at The Guardian's London blog, written by Dave Hill, he's got a lot of analysis on that. He's saying rioting is often described as mindless, and indeed we've seen looting, people breaking into shops, all sorts of lawlessness, basically. But he says rioting is not mindless. People who riot do have minds, and there are reasons for the rioting, which might not be good reasons. Often it could be greed, hatred, a craving for status, antisocial and kind of an antisocial sort of liberty, some deep incoherent rage against authority. So he's saying, look, there are reasons, but there's no point in describing it as being mindless. If we move on to the Huffington Post, they interviewed an activist who witnessed the riots in Brixton, because it was Tottenham on Saturday, then it was Brixton on Sunday. And Jody McIntyre is his name. He says it's a long history of police oppression in these neighbourhoods. That's his point of view. He says the phone hacking scandal kind of copper fast in that sense that the police are a bit corrupt in the UK. But for the people of Brixton and Tottenham, they're well aware of police corruption, according to him. So from his point of view, it's kind of anger towards the police. And Alistair Campbell...
One man who's never short of an opinion.
That's right, former Labour spin doctor. He, on his blog, is saying that Nick Clegg, the head of the Liberal Democrats in the government, during the campaign, he said that social unrest would take place if the Tories went ahead with planned cuts. Now, he seems to have eaten those words since then. He seems to be in favour of the cuts. And those cuts have affected places like Tottenham. So you could suspect then maybe it's anger at these policies, government policies about cuts. If we move to the New Statesman, there Dan Hodges is saying, he's looking at the ethnic dimension to all of this. He says the politics of race in Britain has retreated to the debate around Islamophobia. And if anything good is to come out of this, it's that the issue, that now basically these issues are going to be debated. It's not just going to be Islamophobia, it's broader race relations, I suppose. And members of the Afro-Caribbean community will participate in this debate because I suppose they would populate a lot of these suburbs where we saw a lot of this unrest.
Okie dokie, and very quickly, James, some of the media in the UK at least have decided this is all the fault of social networking websites, Blackberry Messenger and that kind of thing.
So they're saying that Blackberry, this is on Storyful as well, Twitter exonerated, but now Blackberry blamed for the riots. And of course, the thing with Blackberry Messenger is it's private, so it's a little bit more difficult to trace, what was organised via Blackberry Messenger. And they have some examples that have been sent. I think some journalists are asking for these messages to be sent into them, Blackberry messages. And we can see one here, if we can pull it up, a Blackberry message. Everyone link up at the Enfield Town Station at 4 o'clock sharp. Bring your bags, your cars, your vans, your hammers, the lot. And we've had to blur out some words in there as well, which are a little bit less broadcastable. And just a quick look at what Blackberry said about that. They've been tweeting and they said, we feel for those impacted by the riots. We've engaged with the authorities to assist in any way we can.
James Creedon, thank you very much for that media analysis. More news coming up very shortly here on Live from Paris. Do stay with us.